Alice in Wonderland was a movie from 2010 that made $1 billion, and then everyone complained about it afterwards. Supposedly a lot of people didn't like it. But then you have another half of the world, like people like me, and then there's people who love it even more than me, who went and bought all the merchandise, who would dress up as the characters. So that movie kind of had a little bit of a following, but I don't think it really carried on as far as it does. Like, to 2016, do you really see a reason for there to be a sequel in the year 2016? Because now we have Alice Through the Looking Glass, which will be a movie they eventually push on the DVD. It'll eventually be 10 years later, and then people will look back and be like, oh yeah, that movie existed once. Um, and I don't know, Alice in Wonderland made a lot of money, but you gotta understand the reason it made money was because it was right after Avatar came out. And Alice in Wonderland was in 3D, and it was good 3D. A lot of people liked the 3D in it. That's where all the word of mouth came from. That's why I ended up making $1 billion. I do like Alice in Wonderland a bit more than, like, I know a lot of people complain about it nowadays. I liked it, and then they it's 6 years later and they release a sequel. Call it Alice Through the Looking Glass. It's not even an adaptation of Through the Looking Glass, other than the fact that there is a looking glass in this movie, a mirror. This was a really pointless movie to make, but I don't really judge sequels that way. I don't say, well, it's a pointless movie, so when I go in, I'm going to think it's a pointless movie. And then when I leave, hey, look, this was a pointless movie. That's not a good way to judge a movie. You can't just say it's pointless and then end your review there. But I will say that when seeing this movie, it didn't really do anything to make me think it was not pointless. The story, first of all, is basically the Mad Hatter thinks his family's still alive, and now Alice has to find a way to get them to find out if they are alive. But then she's like, well, I can just go back in time and stop them from ever dying. And then there's a big time travel sequence, which eventually lands her in the time when the Red Queen and the White Queen were young. Yeah, so it's a time travel movie. It's a really lame time travel movie with a lot of explanations and a lot of... Yeah, they explain time travel a lot, but it doesn't really make sense. Because I've seen a lot of time travel movies. This was not a good time travel movie. This was a very confusing time travel movie. You know, the director of this movie directed Muppets and Muppets Most Wanted. Those are both movies that I kind of did like. I did like the new Muppet movies. I really wish they would have stuck with making a third one. But instead, he went over and made this movie. And one, it's way too late to be making this movie. It's like 6 years later. Two, it doesn't even really feel like a sequel to the original, because it looks, I don't know, it just looks odd. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland looks odd. Okay, I know how that sounds, but it doesn't look like it mixes with the original 2010 film the same way. It just looks different. It doesn't have the same look to it. It doesn't have the same kind of effects. In fact, the effects are kind of, I feel like it's cheaper, actually. I feel like this is just a cheaper movie, like a direct-to-video film. But it was like $100-some million movie. I really hope this movie kind of shows to Disney, hey, you know what, maybe we shouldn't waste our time. Because, you know, I know they're readapting all the old animated movies, which is something I'm fine with. Yeah, go ahead and remake Cinderella, remake Jungle Book, remake Little Mermaid, remake all those movies in live action. Why not? Beauty and the Beast might end up being really good. All of them have been really good so far. They've been getting really good reviews. But I really hope they stop doing the sequel thing to the live action remakes, because they already announced Jungle Book 2, and I really hope they don't go through with that. I hope this movie makes them realize, you know what, people see the first ones because it brings them back to their childhood. You know, that's the reason they think they make money, is because people want to see it, and then they end up getting good reviews, so then people are like, well, maybe we really should go see this movie. Plus, it'll take me back to when I saw Jungle Book as a kid, and now it's like a brand new one. But I think a lot of people did see Alice in Wonderland for that, you know, plus the 3D. But no one saw the sequel because, one, it didn't get good reviews, and it just kind of looked like a dumb movie to begin with. It's like when Tim Burton made Batman, and then someone else made Batman Forever. Joel Schumacher made Batman Forever. Well, now he made Alice in Wonderland. Tim Burton made it, and then someone makes the sequel. James Bobbin made the sequel. And it just looks way different. More cartoony. It's like, this is a weird parallel. How many years? You know what's even funnier? Batman was made in 1989. Batman Forever came out in 95. 6 years later. Alice Through the Looking Glass came out 6 years after Alice in Wonderland. There's way too many parallels. The best part of the whole movie, weirdly enough, is Sacha Baron Cohen as Time. Just because there's a lot of dumb time puns that I do laugh at, and then there's, I don't know, he's just interesting. His little world is interesting. He kind of lives on the clock. He has a lot of stopwatches, and I think it's interesting, but they don't really focus on it that much. They focus more on Alice traveling through time, and then finding out she can't change time, and then finding out that the Mad Hatter's family's still alive. And then the Red Queen's trying to kill her, but then the Red Queen decides to make up with her sister, be like, because I guess the sister lied about something when they were kids, and after like how many years, the White Queen finally says sorry to the Red Queen, and then she just like, alright, that's all I ever wanted. I'm like, you were crazy in the first movie. I mean, yeah, the first movie's not perfect, but that's one aspect that they got from like the original Disney movie, how crazy the Queen was. She was crazy in the 2010 movie also. It was just about as crazy. And then in this movie, she just kind of backs down from the crazy last second. I'm like, you kidding me? After all those years, you're just going to be like, yeah, alright, I'll forgive you now. It's like, wow, that was underwhelming. And then there's a scene where Alice goes in an insane asylum right after leaving Wonderland, I guess. She leaves Wonderland, and she's in an insane asylum, and they explain why she's in the insane asylum, and I'm figuring that part in the insane asylum takes place after the scene in the beginning of the movie where they're in the real world. When she returns to the real world, she's in the insane asylum, I think, because she started talking about all the things she had seen. She started talking about the chronosphere, the thing that makes them travel through time. She started talking about Wonderland, so then they threw her in the insane asylum. So that all makes sense. But at the end of the movie, when she returns to the real world, it's like they all forgot she was in the insane asylum, or that scene didn't happen at all, which doesn't make any sense to me. But this is a weird time travel movie. A lot of it didn't make sense. Basically, if you mess up time, which, you know, the whole thing with time paradoxes, they say if you see yourself, your younger self, you're going to cause a time paradox and the whole world just crumble. Well, in this movie, everything starts to rust. The Red Queen sees her younger self. Everything starts to rust. Everything does. Everything throughout time. And it doesn't really make sense. One weird thing that I noticed was all the characters from the 2010 movie, you know, the mouse, what's it? Tweedledee and Tweedledum, why can't I remember their names? Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the mouse, the dog, the March Hare, the White Rabbit, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some other ones, but there's like a bunch of characters like that. And in the 2010 movie, they at least attempted to scatter them throughout the movie. In this movie, they're one giant, the Cheshire Cat, that's another one. They clump like all 7 or more of those characters into one group, and every time they're in the movie, they're in a big group together. Every single time. They're never on their own, they never get their own lines. It's always like they're always together. So basically, those 7 characters become one big character, which makes them completely unmemorable. And it's like one thing was that this movie, the whole time, I didn't care. I didn't care the entire time watching this movie about anything that was going on. So I don't know if people who hated the original, the 2010 movie, are gonna hate this one too, or if they'll end up being out of nowhere saying they like it, or this is way better, or this is at least better. It's not good, but it's better. I don't agree. I think this one's way worse. I think this one's just, it was really hard to watch. It wasn't really a well-made film. I mean, besides, I don't even know if the CG was better than what it was in the 2010 movie. I'm not really good at comparing, but point is, there was just a lot of stuff going on that I didn't care about. And it didn't have Tim Burton's touch, because with the 2010 Alice in Wonderland, I like it. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's that great, but I do like it. That movie would not have been good had it not been for Tim Burton. If they would have taken that script to anybody else, it would not have worked. But it worked with Tim Burton. That's the only reason I think it worked, because it was Tim Burton and it was his crew. And in this movie, I don't know who maybe did return from Tim Burton's crew. Maybe the production designer did. Maybe the cinematographer did. I know Danny Elfman returns, but I don't really know if any of those other key roles of the production returned from Alice in Wonderland to this movie. So maybe I'm saying the wrong thing here when I say it doesn't look as good and it's missing Tim Burton's touch, but I just didn't think it was shot as well. That's the thing. I thought it was just kind of a hard watch, which I feel bad because I think it could have been a really zany, fun movie. Because yeah, it's pointless, but you could have made it fun. You could have made it just like, yeah, let's just have fun making it. Let's just have fun. Let's make this a silly movie, but they didn't really go for that. It just really kind of by the numbers kind of movie. Very by the numbers. Alice Through the Looking Glass. That movie happened. We'll look back on it someday and be like, yep, that's a movie. That's all I really have to say. I mean, that's it.